Morning, Unity Church of the Hills family. How do we even begin? How do we even begin a countdown and announcement video after a week like the one we've been through, other than to say how much we love you, how much you have all been in our hearts, how much I know and Tammy knows, how much we all know that each of us has been holding the highest and best and praying for one another through this extraordinary weather event. And we are so grateful that you are here and able to be with us and warm today.
Absolutely. And as my beautiful wife wrote in a text to a friend, the effect this has on the psyche is huge, but the soul, untouched, shows up whole and complete to rescue us. So while you tend to your physical and emotional needs, please lean into the presence of the divine within you, as well as in the helping hands all around you. And reach out to your spiritual family if you need help.
Now, our Sunday service, streaming to you live from Unity Church of the Hills, will begin momentarily. And in the meantime, please say hello to your fellow love streamers while we run through a few short announcements.
Our Sharing is Caring program continues. This week, we're supporting the Central Texas Food Bank. They've seen a significant spike in demand during the winter storm, and we want to do our part to help replenish their supplies. For every share of the service while we are live, we will donate $5 to this amazing organization.
Join our Board of Trustees at 1 p.m. today for our monthly virtual board gathering via Zoom. It's a great opportunity to see those faces you've been missing too. Frank Phelan, board president, will provide a short update, and then we'll break into small groups where you can ask your Board of Trustees questions and connect. The Zoom link can be found in our calendar at unityhills.org.
Mark your calendar for next Sunday at 1 p.m. for our How to Mastermind session led by longtime masterminders Cliff and Lou Goodwin Mark. Learn about the power of group prayer and surrendering our requests to the divine or mastermind. The session takes place on Zoom.
Conscious Conversations facilitator Robin, John, and me will continue to explore bias and how it affects our experience of oneness in our upcoming conversation on Thursday, March 4th. At 7 p.m. via Zoom, of course. We'll continue to draw from the amazing podcast, Learning How to See by Father Richard Rohr's Center for Action and Contemplation. And we'll listen to episode 2 together and then spend some time in conversation. Register online to receive the Zoom link.
Our new minister letter writing campaign continues. The idea is for everyone to spend time in contemplation, connecting in consciousness with the individual who's divinely appointed to be our new spiritual leader. Imagine that they've been here for 60 or 90 days and you feel this incredible connection with them. What would you want to say to them, and how would you express your appreciation? Now take pen to paper and write them a letter as if you're having that conversation. Your participation helps draw this individual to us. And if you are so inclined, mail the letter to Unity Church of the Hills and put new minister on the envelope. We'll save your letter and give it to them when they arrive.
Thank you for being with us this morning. We are grateful for each and every one of you and for our spiritual home. So don't forget to say hello to your fellow love streamers as we begin our Sunday service.
We love you.
We love you. And we love our winter hats. This is my favorite winter hat, isn't it, Tammy?
Yes, it is.
It's
How cute.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.
God at all. Oh, they are shaken from their believing. When they don't see results, they quickly fall.
But don't you waver, just keep on living in the way God wants you to. Don't get discouraged, just keep on giving.
Keep on casting your bread upon the water. Things will come back home on pressed down, shaken together, running over. Soon it's gonna come back home on every way.
Oh, keep on working, seeking your freedom. Instead of working for your need, just keep on sharing the love of spirit. You know, growing comes from planting seeds. Keep on casting your bread on the water.
Soon it's gonna come back home on every way. Keep on casting your bread upon the water. Soon it's gonna come back home on every way. Good measure pressed down, shaken together, running over. Soon it's gonna come back home on every way. Every way, keep on casting your bread upon the water. Soon it's gonna come back home on every way. Keep on casting your bread upon the water. Soon it's gonna come back home on every way. Good measure pressed down, shaken together, running over. Soon it's gonna come back home. Keep on casting your bread upon the water. Soon it's gonna come back home. Keep on casting your bread upon the water. Soon it's gonna come back home. Keep on casting your bread upon the water. Soon it's gonna come back home. Keep on casting. Keep on casting. Soon it's gonna come back home on every way.
Good morning, Unity Church of the Hills. Thank you, Celebration. I don't know about y'all. I mean, y'all have been home for a long, long time. Last week we were home because we were frozen in. I missed you guys. But the good news, you'll hear about this later. We're going to start opening to a few people in the sanctuary starting next week. So stay tuned about how to do that. Safely masked, you know, all the 9 yards. We'll have open on the pavilion as well. Same thing, mask, you know, distanced and all that stuff. But anyway, good morning. We are in Austin, Texas, and we have like no snow. It's the most random thing. It's like we're locked in, frozen down, and then it's gone. It's like, oh. Anyway. We're glad that you're here. If you're here for the very first time, we welcome you. Type the word connect in and we'll have somebody connect with you and let you know all about Unity Church of the Hills and Unity in general. My name is Reverend Eliza Bloom Robinson and I am your Bridge Interim Minister. I've been here for a few months as you are going through your process of your search for your next senior minister. And so it's my honor to be here and be with you. We have prayer chaplains available, and the way to reach them, there's a couple of ways, but if you dial the number that's on your screen and leave a message with your name, your phone number, and that you would like a prayer, they will call you back after the service. You can also reach our prayer chaplains through our website in our prayer and care. You'll be hearing a little bit more about our culture of care that we're vamping up, and that's in addition to prayer as well. So we're excited about that. We want to take a moment to honor our youth, our kids, our kiddos, from the little babies all the way up through the high school and even the young adults. So We have a robust youth and family program. It is all virtual at this time still, but there's lots of things going on. There's virtual gatherings, and the teens are actually meeting with people in the region, not just our forget what we call it, our group. Anyway, we've got things for parents and things for younger kids, and so check it out. The best way to find out about that is to type a comment in the chat. If you want somebody to reach out, Linda will reach out, or to go to unityhills.org and find out all about our youth program. So we've been rotating through our mission, our vision, and our prayer for our next senior minister. Today we're going to do that prayer together, but I invite you, as we say it together in a moment, to not only read the words, to not only say the words, but to feel the words, like really feel the power, the vibration of calling that person in. So together, centered in spirit, we unite in our vision of the spiritual leader who will inspire us to higher consciousness and deeper levels of love and acceptance for all. We trust and surrender to divine order, grateful for our spiritual home and the wonderful gifts that await us. Amen. Ooh, very fun. So, COVID our numbers are dropping in Austin. Now I'm thinking in about 2 weeks from now, because, we finally stayed home, right? That our numbers will drop even further. So we have a reopening team that has worked really, really hard to create us a matrix. So we're following the matrix in alignment with the Unity of Austin guidelines. We are now down to stage 4, which means we can open to 25 people in our sanctuary, 50 on our pavilion. Again, it's mask and social distance and hand sanitizer and all of those things. But stay tuned. After the board Zoom call, we will open up reservations, so you can do that as early as this afternoon. You will need to RSVP in advance, and the link will be available on the website. Everywhere on the website. Yeah, so we're excited, as we're coming out of a deep freeze and we're coming back together and things are moving. So how cool is that? I want to just invite you to engage with us on the in the comments. So I see Kim, I see my mom, Janet, I see Shonda, I see Elda, Phyllis, Sylvia. I see lots of people here. Oh, Rob's watching. Are you warm, honey? Rob's been in Phoenix this week, so we've been doing our temperature comparison. But he said he's sending sun our way. So thank you, it got here. Elizabeth, all kinds of people. So do a shout out, say hello to us, say hello to your friends, and we like that engagement. That helps everybody feel connected. So we are in Black History Month, and each week of this month we've invited one of our very own congregants to share a few words with us today. Today we have board member Lori Plick.
Good morning, Unity family, and happy Black History Month. Unlike a lot of you, I wasn't raised in a family steeped in New Thought. In fact, as someone who grew up Baptist, I think I described my first visit to a Unity church as a very homogenous, hippie church light. It wasn't until I visited UCOH that I was open to see and take in the total acceptance of love, of diversity that was being offered. I hadn't realized that African Americans had played such a huge role in the New Thought movement until I started to do a little digging into our history. I mean, everybody talks about Ruth Mosley, the founder of the Unity Urban School, or the Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman, who was the first African American to live at Unity Village and her church, in Chicago, Christ Universal Temple. But what about the ones you probably saw on TV every single day and didn't know that they were part of the Unity family? Take, for example, Della Reese. Yes, she started as a jazz singer of Don't You Know? And for me growing up, she was that lady on Chico and the Man and Sanford and Son. Yeah, I'm that old. Or maybe more recently, Touched by an Angel. That Della Reese. After suffering a brain aneurysm in the 80s, and she felt like her faith had taken her through, she became an ordained Unity minister and the founder of Understanding Principles for Better Living Church, aka the upchurch. In our own words, I think Mrs. Reese speaks to directly at the heart of why we all are drawn to unity. She says, New Thought doesn't attempt to teach you what to think, but rather how to think on a higher level. And that level of thinking will immune you from doubt and fear that causes you not to see the best in ourselves and others. Immunizing yourself from negative thinking and actions allows the God qualities of confidence, diligence, compassion, forgiveness, and most importantly, love. Love to fill your life. This is how we achieve a healthy spiritual outlook, eliminate the negative, and hold on to the positive. Clean out your subconscious mind so you can recognize and accept the good that God has in store for you. A daily prayer that she goes on to say is, God promised me that I am whole, perfect, and complete. I believe it. Yes, like Dr. Reese, I believe the more we know about Black history and unity, the more we'll know that we are all whole, perfect, and complete. Love to you all. Namaste.
No, thank you so much, Lori. I didn't know that about Della Reese, and I found that very fascinating. I almost feel like Lori prayed us in, but we're going to take a moment in prayer. First, I'd like to invite Rajik to play the crystal bowl as we anchor ourselves in consciousness. And the vibration of the bowl is tuned to the heart chakra. So we take that sacred journey from our heads into our heart space. I am so grateful for the one power and the one presence that is all there is and is all good. That is that wholeness that we are. That is that strength and that power, the grace, the love, the joy. It is who and what we are because there is nothing but God here. And so I'm so grateful to take a moment. In the 8 a.m. service, Jean said, stop. To be in the stillness for just a moment with the wholeness of our beings, to reside there in that place where we are one in the one. And so it's from that place and that knowingness together in sacred community, in holy company, that we bless our time together, we bless the message, that it lands on the ears that are open to hear either now or later, that we each walk away from this day, from this time of renewal, with greater wisdom, greater compassion, greater understanding. And so in that knowingness, in that allowingness, we release this prayer, knowing that it is so, and so it is. Amen. Peace and blessings.
things in this life that happen that's not fair. But keep the faith, God's word says He will be there. God says trust in me, and you can depend. God says have faith in me, I'll be there till the end. Faith is the key. Don't stop believing. In God you'll find a love that lives inside. Faith is the key. Don't stop believing. In God you'll find a love that lives inside. Oh, if you feel it's all said and done because of challenges you have not won, just dig down deep and believe it's not as bleak as it seems. Oh, God knows everything. There's no challenge He can't win. Just stay in the light. Let your faith be your might. Faith is the key. Don't stop believing. In God you'll find a love that lives inside. Faith is the key. Don't stop believing. In God you'll find a love that lives inside. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, and the evidence of things not seen. So if faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God, we can do anything if we simply trust. Oh, faith is the key. Faith is the key. Don't just stop believing. You'll find love that lives inside. Faith is the key. And don't just stop believing. For its spirit you'll find a love that lives inside. Oh,
how to be here. I was saying without my mic on, maybe you were reading my lips, or maybe Becca was getting my words. Thank you for that beautiful song. It has so many messages in it, and Tom, beautiful, and just everybody beautiful. And I want to just shout out that Susan is here and just looking beautiful as always. And, you know, Bob died recently, and whew, you know, life goes on, right? God doesn't give us what we ask for, right? But God does provide us the faith, the courage, the strength to keep moving on. Our words up where I look for the camera says, with God, all things are possible, from Matthew. And it's true, with God, all things are possible, but it's not always necessarily exactly what we want. So it is said, found a couple of things, you know, because the internet is so, there's some really strange things. I think our
Hear you,
That was-
Reverend Eliza.
they can or cannot.
Now they can hear you.
Now they can hear me. Okay. So have they been able to hear me? Okay. I don't know if you can hear me or you cannot hear me, but here's what I know. Here's what I found out on the internet today, or this week, right? I'm quoting. It says, if 2020 was the year of hell, then 2021 is the year that hell froze over. Deep groans. Deep groans, I know. But I read it on the internet, so it had to be true. Facebook, actually, to be truthful. And then the other thing I saw on Facebook, which I think is very fascinating, said, it was a meme, and it said COVID was saying, I cannot get those Texans to stay home. And weather says, hey, let me have a shot at it. Weather won. We stayed home. Anyway, I don't know if those were funny or not, but they tickled my funny bone in really weird ways. So hopefully you're doing okay. I know a lot of people were without power. I know a lot of people still are without water. We've got people around here who are happy to help you fill water. I know Kim put something in the chat. If you need water, let us know. Hopefully everybody's got power again and everybody's safe. What I know about Unity Church of the Hills is we take care of each other. And what I know about the city of Austin and Texans and Americans and humanity is that when going gets really tough, we rise up. Individual to individual, one person at a time, taking care of one person at a time. You know, one of the most beautiful stories that I noticed this week was one of the furniture stores here in the Austin area. They opened their doors. So they've got all these beds and recliners and couches, and they said, come, we've got heat. We don't have much water. They had a trickle of water, but they got water in. They fed the people. It's a store that even had a cafeteria, so they were feeding people. They were bringing food in. They were like opening their doors. And in opening their doors, they were opening their hearts. And what if, other than opening our hearts, what are we called to do? In these weird times, in these strange days, in life itself, because that's what we're here to do. It was strange for me. I'm staying in Sin City, and we were on rolling blackouts. There's still a lot of weird things going on. Are we still good? I'm going to keep going like we're still good. Anyway, we were on rolling blackouts, and so the power would go off for a couple hours, then it would come on for a couple hours. Then it would go off for a couple hours, then it would go on. And then it would go off for like 3 or 4 or 6 or 7 hours, and then it would go on. And I got like PTSD over that. Not so much post-traumatic stress syndrome, but pre-traumatic stress syndrome. Every time the power went on, like if the fridge went on or off or the heat kicked in, I would jump. I'd be like, oh no, it's going to go off again. Oh no, it's going to go off again. It was very weird. Felt very Twilight Zone-ish to me. Felt really, really strange. And I didn't have it bad at all. I mean, I had it really, really easy as things go. But I know that when things like this happen, it kind of makes us, we lose our foundation a little bit, and we get a deeper foundation. Both are true, right? We're kind of rocked, and yet we rise up. We find that strength within us. And so I titled this talk a few weeks ago. It's called Remaining Awake Through a Great Revolution. And it's based on Martin Luther King's, one of his famous talks. He gave it at several different commencements, and he's talking about staying awake. And I have to tell you that even in this last week, I didn't know that I went to sleep. I stayed pretty awake, but it was like my beingness shrunk in order to navigate the times. Did you have an experience of that? Or maybe your beingness grew as you were taking care of other people. But it's when life happens, we still have to get to stay awake. From Romans, all things work together for good for those who love God. That's always been a strange statement to me, but that's from Romans 8, verse 28. But if you back up a little bit, Romans 8, verse 5, says, those who live according to the flesh have their minds set on what the flesh desires. Okay, for me, that's warm water, heat out of my electricity, warm food, all of those basic things, right? But those who live in accordance with the Spirit have their mind set on what the Spirit desires. The mind governed by the flesh is dead, but the mind governed by the Spirit is peace and life. We know that the whole creation has been groaning as in the pains of childbirth right up to the present time. Haven't we been groaning? The last 10 days, the last 14 months or 9 months or 11 months or however long it's been. We've been groaning for a long time. But not only so, but we ourselves who have the first fruits of the Spirit groan inwardly as we await eagerly for our adoption to sonship, the redemption of our bodies. Now, I have to step back, take that not so much literally as metaphysically and metaphorically. And really what this whole chapter of Romans is saying to us, that Paul is saying to us, and he's writing to the Romans, he's writing in encouragement in times that are tough. But it is about landing in that place that knows, just like the song said, that my faith in God will get me through, that God gives me the strength and the courage and the wisdom to get through whatever life gives, right? And in this time, the great revolution of consciousness, the great revolution of awakening from separation from the desires of the flesh, if you will, to the awareness of oneness, if you will, sonship, if you will, awakening to that, we have to stay diligent and vigilant in our trust, in our faith, in our awareness. We get to not go to sleep. And when we go to sleep, we get to wake up and wake up and wake up again and again and again. Rumi says, try not to resist the changes that come your way. Instead, let life live through you. And do not worry that your life is turning upside down. How do you know that the side you're used to is better than the one to come? I love that image. Don't worry if your life is being turned upside down or inside out. Don't worry. Don't worry. Do not worry. Jesus said, do not worry. Jesus didn't say, don't worry on Sunday morning. He said, do not worry. Do not worry about anything for any reason. Do not worry. Put your worry, take your worry, and set it down. And come back. And come back to the truth principles. And come back to the truth that we know. That there is only one presence and one power. We call it God. That we are of God, in God, as God. That we have the tools to navigate whatever it is that life brings us. That's key. We have the tools to navigate whatever it is that life brings us. Martin Luther King starts his famous speech by telling the story of Rip Van Winkle. Now, Rip Van Winkle, if you remember your fairy tales, right, is the one that went up the mountain and slept for 20 years. Sometimes, do you ever wish you could sleep for 20 years, or 20 minutes, or 20 hours, 20 days? Anyway, he goes on to talk about when Rip Van Winkle went up the mountain, and when he came down the mountain, he discovered that he had slept through a revolution. That when he came down the mountain, the sign that was out at the base of the mountain, the picture was of George Washington. When he went up, it was of the king. He didn't know what had happened. He had slept not only for 20 years, but for a whole big change. And so he was disoriented in that change in consciousness, right? We're talking about revolution, but for us here, we're talking continually about the revolution in consciousness. You know, not out there, but in here. How do we wake up to that? A revolution is a radical change, a profound change in consciousness. The one that we're in now is from separation to oneness. The one that we're in now is showing itself in all kinds of different ways on the planet. From the pandemic to the violence to the polarization, all of these things are indicators, actually, that we're in the chaos before the breakthrough, that we're in the breakdown. All these systems that are breaking down, what if they're breaking down so we can rise up? I was in one of my global consciousness calls, and we were doing, this big work that we do, and I had the experience, we were still frozen in, but I had the experience of, in my meditation, so to speak, but I felt like in this work that we were doing, I was like shot up and blasted through a whole, what's the top level of the atmosphere? The one that kind of surrounds our planet, whatever that is, right? It's like shot up through that. But that, in my particular experience this week, was ice. It was a layer of ice. I was like, okay, that's probably very personal to us here, right? But shot up. And what's on the other side of this invisible boundary between separation and oneness? What's on the other side? Was brilliance. It was just brilliance. I was doing some work with Richard Rohr this week because we had a board training, not yesterday, but the weekend before. We were in board training Friday night and all day Saturday, and Richard Rohr's name came up a couple of times, and he's written many books, including Falling Upward and Universal Christ and all kinds of things. And so I was in his body of work, and I was reading about Barbara Holmes, who's a part of his body of work now, and she's African American, and so we're Black History Month, so we're weaving this all in and through, right? And she says, we're moving from victimization, marginalization, oppression, oppressors, and that's all the old story. But the new story would see all of us evolving, self-expanding, finding a new place in this wonderful cosmology. She goes on to say the physics and cosmology revolution, I call it a revolution in consciousness, the physics and cosmology revolution that is over 100 years old and has not been translated into the ordinary world of any of us. According to physicists, this is what the world is like. It's a universe permeated with movement and energy that vibrates and pulses with access to many dimensions. We are all interconnected, not just spiritually or imaginally, but actually. And the explicit or manifested order that's all around us makes us think that we're separate. And she goes on to say this, I learned that the ideas of dominance are predicated on Newtonian clockwork universe. So like dominoes, you push one and they all fall down and everything's in order. But quantum physics, which is what we're operating in now, tells us that the world is completely different. Particles burst into existence in unpredictable ways. Observations affect the observed, and dreams of order and rationality are not the building blocks of the universe. But the building blocks of the universe is vibration, is frequency, is the power of love. It is the imaginal realm of what is possible. Leads me to my joke. I always have to kind of set those up just, so I don't shock you too much. So a kindergarten teacher was observing her class while the children all drew their art. And she would occasionally walk around to see what each child's work was. And she got to one little girl and she said, who was working diligently. And the teacher said, well, what are you drawing? And she goes, I'm drawing God. And the teacher said, well, no one knows what God looks like. How do you know what to draw? She goes, oh, they will when I'm done. What does it look like? What does new humanity look like? How are we designing it? Because new humanity is a new cosmology. It is the power of co-creating that which works for all people. Another God joke, another elementary school joke. The children were lined up in the cafeteria of a Catholic elementary school for lunch, and at the head of the table was a big, large pile of apples. And the nun had posted the note on the apple tray saying, take only one, God is watching. Thought nothing of it. They move through the line. They get down to the other end of the line, and there was a big pile of chocolate chip cookies, and a child had written a note for the cookies. Take all you want. God's watching the apples. Take all you want of that which is good. Not that apples aren't good. Take all that you want of love and kindness and compassion, because when we activate those things, they expand. When we activate that which we want, it expands, especially in the quantum realm, in the quantum world. A few years ago, 10 years ago, a decade ago, which is hard to imagine for me, I went through what I call now my spiritual awakening initiation. It was not my first awakening moment, nor has it actually been my last, but I had fallen into a body of work. I'd come into a time, I don't know how much of my story I've shared, and I'm just going to share a snippet of it today, but I'd come into a body of work that had asked me something outside of me, inside of me, greater than me, had asked me the question, are you willing to serve creation? And I said, absolutely. And then the response was, then you'll be asked to surrender everything, which led me into this whole journey. That's when I left Austin, actually, when I left the ministry I was in here in Austin, when I left the Unity movement for a period of time, and I surrendered. It was a year and a half of absolute letting go of everything, titles, labels, material, jobs, relationships, even the outer garments, right? But then it was a surrender of all the emotions of humanity. It was a moving through, a processing through of the emotions. And then it was my belief systems. Everything got to be dismantled and taken apart. And what I found over and over and over in that experience was this place. I just closed my eyes because it's there. It's just there, this place of absolute bliss. This place of bliss, of love that took me to my knees over and over and over again. And on my knees and in my heart burst and burst and burst over and over and over again, inside out, on top of itself, underneath itself. And what I found was this point of stillness, this point of noneness, of no-ness. No thing, no thought, nothing, but the infinite void, which was and is the palpable presence of love. And I would have a moment or a day or a weekend or a week in this absolute bliss where my words didn't work and the colors were different than I'd ever seen before, and it was in like living in this bubble that was the universe, where the world as I knew it became just a tiny little grain of sand. And then something would happen and I would like, oh, well, that doesn't feel so good, right? Like maybe an emotion, maybe a grief, or maybe a rage, or maybe a fear would bubble up from within. And I knew that I was doing the work not only for my own soul, but for humanity. And I would process it, and I would process it not by saying, go away, I don't want to deal with you, but like, okay, bring it on. Okay, bring it on. We get knocked flat and, process through and burn through that stuff. And then another layer would be released. And it was like, there I am. There I am. That's what God is. That's what creation is. And then I'd go about my life and something would happen. And were those moments where I went to sleep? I don't know, maybe some of them definitely. All of them, I don't know. But we get to stay awake, not only to those places of bliss and love and kindness and compassion, not only to those places where that's all we see, but we get to stay awake to all of it. Martin Luther King, in his talk, in his speech, was about staying awake as things are changing. Things are changing. Things are changing on the planet. Things are changing in consciousness. We are in a awesome, amazing, incredible moment of time. Maybe it's a decade, maybe it's 2, maybe it's 100 years, I don't know, where humanity is changing. And we're on that cutting edge of that because of our belief system. Because we already know the language, what we get to do is embody it. What we get to do is integrate it into every aspect of our being. What we get to do is to stand up awake to all that is, to everything that is and everything we know to be true. I read this book this week. It's called Kindred by Octavia Butler. And I think Melissa has the link there. She might put it in the chat. And it's a novel. It was written in the late 70s. And it's a brilliant, gripping, disturbing book that's phenomenally fantastic. I couldn't put it down. And my friend Kate, who usually watches, Kate recommended it to me. So thanks, Kate. But the long story, in just a couple of sentences, it's a time travel kind of a thing. And Dana, who's the main character, was 26 years old. On her 26th birthday, was transported in time from 1976 to sometime in the 1800s. And she was just taken there. And the first time she was taken there, she saved this little boy from a drowning. And then she went back. And then she went again, and then she went again, and she went again. And what she discovered over the course of this book is that little boy she saved is ultimately her great-grandfather. And of course, he was a child of slave owners. And every time that Dana went back, she actually, the first few times, and she would go for a couple of hours, or then a couple of days, and then a few months, and then over an extended period of time. But then she'd go back to her home in 1976, and she'd only been gone a few hours. It was very, you had to kind of let your mind be blown to stay up with the story. But the longer that she was there, the more, at first she was observing, horrified really at the treatment of slaves. She was African American, and so she became, as she went back, one of the slaves, or she was seen as one of the slaves. And then she was there for a longer period of times, over months. And the reason I bring it up today is because the longer she was there, the more she shrunk into being a person who was really living in that time. The more that she acclimated to the times that she was living in. Now, for her, as a black woman living in 1976, married to a white man, by the way, going back into the 1800s was disturbing. And so it's her story, and her story of all of that journey. It's just a fabulous book. So get it. It's just good. But it impacted me because, especially then we're in Ice Down or whatever we called it, and how quickly I would shrink and how quickly I would become PTSD about the power coming off or going on. Or that first night we had power all night long, I must have woke up 7 times to check to make sure we still had power. It was crazy. I'm like, my body is in a stress response. And I bring it up again because probably some of you are in a stress response. But just know it's a stress response. And then take care of yourself. And take care of yourself. And take care of yourself. For we are in a revolution of awakening. We are in a revolution of love. And that love is the most revolutionary thing on the planet. It is the realization that things do not have to be the way they seem. It's awakening to a new way of being. It's an awakening to the truth that we are all one, and that there is one power and one presence, doesn't matter what you call it, that is active in us and through us, but more importantly, as us. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the ones that get to wake up every day, stay awake every day with love. Be a proactive part of the revolution of love, for equality, for kindness, compassion, for all people. And in closing, Rumi. Listen with ears of tolerance, see through the eyes of compassion, and speak with the language of love. I love you. Oh, yeah, can I have my, I'm going to do a meditation. It's a very strange day, so we're back and I'm doing a meditation because I forgot. So take a moment and we'll enter that meditation with that Rumi quote. I'll say it again. As we move our awareness into the center of our being, we listen with the ears of tolerance. We see with the eyes of compassion. And we speak with the language of love. Drop into the center of your being right here and right now. Drop your awareness from your thoughts, your emotions, from the outer world, from your problems, from your situations, your circumstances. Drop out of that and land in the depths of your being. Land in your heart of hearts. And imagine, if you will, that you have been asleep. Imagine, if you will, you've been asleep like Rip Van Winkle for 20 years, or a lifetime, or centuries. And imagine that you are awakening right here. Imagine your soul, your being awakening. And feel yourself waking up, just like after a long night's sleep. Wake up. Oh, stretch. Ah. And as you open your eyes and you look out over the world, over your life, you notice something's different. You notice the palpable presence of love. As you look out over the world, you see that kindness, that compassion. You see innovation and beauty and creativity. You see a synergy and a collaborative field that you've never even begun to imagine. And you think to yourself, wow, we've had a revolution of oneness. Feel how it feels in your body to be only aware of love. Feel how it feels as you awaken from the dream to be in a world of oneness. And as you are awake in your dream, look back onto this day in 2021 and sprinkle it, zing it, gift it with the sparkles of this love. Let it be like glitter, like diamonds glittering, landing onto this day in 2021. For you know now it's possible. You know now it is already done. Bring it. Sprinkle the world. Radiate love and kindness and compassion to every single person on the planet. Sprinkle our country and all the systems and all the places of division and all the places of others. Sprinkle it with this knowing that we are one. And as we learn to navigate 2021, we come into a palpable presence of oneness. And sprinkle that same love, that same oneness onto your life, onto your friends, your loved ones, those you struggle with. As you become the one who awakened from your dream into the one that is awake in oneness, in love, right here and right now. Say to yourself, I am awake. I remain awake. I wake up every moment. I forget. I wake up again and again and again. And so it is. And so we let it be in oneness. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Eliza. Good morning, Unity Church of the Hills. We have now come to that part of our service where it is time for giving, a time to give back to the community that this church is and how this church means to each and every one of us. Listening to you speaking about awakening, I woke up this morning to sunshine, and that was a reason to be joyful. I woke up this morning to running water, praise the Lord. That was a reason to be joyful. And I know each and every one of you are waking up this morning to something to give back to and be thankful for. So this is your time to give to this community, and there are several ways to do so. You can do so by texting to UCOH 77977. You can go online to the web or to our Facebook page. You can go to the UCOH app, or you can mail a check. Any way that you can, please do so. This community appreciates it, and this love that you give is always given back to you. So now, let us come together and say our blessing. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I circulate, and I am grateful. So rocking and a rolling, I can feel it moving when I sing this song. What a thrill to feel it moving on and never stopping. Deep within my heart it keeps a rolling and a rocking, rolling and a rocking and a rocking and a rolling. It's a happy rhythm in my soul. There's music ringing deep within my soul. I can feel it bubble, I can feel it roll. Then I get the feeling that I wanna shout. Makes me feel so good, I got to move about. Brother, there can never be a single doubt. I can feel it, I can feel it. There's a happy rhythm, keeps a rocking and a rolling. I can feel it moving when I sing this song. What a thrill to feel it moving on and never stopping. In my heart it keeps a rolling and a rocking, rolling and a rocking and a rocking and a rolling. It's a happy rhythm in my soul, in my soul. I can feel it roll, and I get the feeling that I want to shout. Makes me feel so good, I got to move about. Brother, there can never be a single doubt. I can feel it, there's a happy rhythm, keeps a rocking and a rolling. I feel it moving when I sing this song. What a thrill to feel it moving on and never stopping. And my heart it keeps a rolling and a rocking, rolling and a rocking and a rocking and a rolling. It's a rhythm in my soul, in my soul. Feel the spirit, feel it in this place. Look at all the people, smiles upon their face. Blessings all around us, gratitude's away. Attitude important, think of what you say. It's always your heart and mind to have a happy day. I can feel it, I can feel it. There's a happy rhythm keeps
So I think Kate Camden put it best. She said, all right, celebration, this gets us rocking and rolling into the rest of our day. So
There we
thank you
go.
guys so much. So last week, Reverend Eliza shared a bit about our culture of care, and we wanted to go ahead and show that one more time. So
I'm
let's
here
see it.
today to seed something that we've been playing with at the staff level and the board level for a couple of months. And we're calling it the culture of care. And we're activating a greater awareness of the value of care in and through our ministry at every level. It's a culture of care, it's a consciousness of care, it's an action of care. And so we're kicking off our Culture of Care campaign with love and connection and engagement. So over the next few weeks, you'll be seeing that term. Hopefully you'll be feeling it because we've been seeding that consciousness, as I said. And we'll have a couple of polls coming out your way. So we would love for you to just engage with us real quick. We'll be talking about that then in Sunday services. And we'll be presenting some other ideas and ways to play, both to be a part of the care teams and to receive care. First question we have is, what is care to you? So be thinking about that. And just know, from all of us, from me, from all of us in the staff, from the board, from the leadership, we care. We care deeply about who you are, what you are, how you are. We care about your heart, we care about your soul, and we care about your life. So join us in a culture of care. So much love.
Is it weird watching yourself a little bit?
It is.
So there is an email that'll go out tomorrow, and that will share a bit more about the culture of care, including that poll that Reverend Eliza mentioned. And if you'd like to be a part of the Care Connection team, they do have a training session scheduled for Wednesday, March 3rd at 4 p.m. The Care Connection team will be making calls in the month of March to connect and check in. You can learn more and join that team by emailing prayers@unityhills.org. So get your questions ready, as we will be doing a Going Deeper immediately following our prayer for protection. We will wrap up in plenty of time for today's virtual board gathering, so you can join our board at 1 p.m. via Zoom. And a reminder, if you'd like to join us either in the sanctuary or the pavilion on the 28th, that RSVP link will be made available immediately following the virtual board gathering. And once again, the sanctuaries will be open to 25, the pavilion to 50, with all the physical distancing and guidelines, etc. So we look forward to seeing you guys either in person or virtually. And let's close with our prayer for protection, shall we?
Shall we? Shall we just say the whole thing today?
Sure. Why don't you lead it?
All right. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. As the light of God, we shine. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. As the love of God, we embrace. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. As the power of God, we stand in truth. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. As the presence of God, we radiate love. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Wherever we are, God is, for we are one. God bless you. Have a beautiful week.
See you guys for the Going Deeper in just 1 minute. If you have a question for Reverend Eliza, I did. All right, well, the gremlins continue to. Wacky morning, y'all. If you have a question for Reverend Eliza, go ahead and type that in the comments. Thank you, Courtney, for letting me know that my mic was off. We're getting back in the swing of things, right?
It's been a wild morning.
It has been.
I said to you earlier, I forgot how to be here. We were gone one Sunday.
We are awake. We
are
promise.
awake. Or we are waking up anyway.
Yeah, right, for sure.
Yeah.
So, I love the topic of awakening. I think it's a fabulous topic. I could talk about it all day long. Your story about your own process of having to surrender everything. I'm curious, did it feel like you had a choice in every moment that you were surrendering, or was it like, and I don't mean that like in this, I really don't mean it dualistically, even though it sounds that way, but, was there just, like, I guess just explain it a little bit more, what that felt like, maybe. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so fast forward way back to the early 90s. I had an experience, and I would have called it one of my really first major awakenings, where I ultimately made a covenant with God. I didn't make a covenant. It's not like I woke up and go, I'm going to make a covenant with God today. It wasn't that at all.
Right.
I mean, it was many years before I would look back and go, oh, that's what that was. But I felt this experience in a moment of surrender, which came out of deep grief and falling apart, and everything was falling apart. And I heard, if you follow, I will lead. And I committed at a deep soul level way back then,
Right.
that if a door opens, I would walk through it. I didn't ever commit to say I wouldn't argue about it,
Right.
but I would walk through. And I would also walk away if the door was closed. Right? And so it's been visceral in my being for all of those years. So in 2010, when that experience was happening and things were falling apart, more internally than externally at that moment, but I was so clear that, well, let me put, yeah, we could spend a whole hour here, but I was so clear that it was my next step. And I was also clear that I could say, no, I don't want to do this. But of course, you don't know what you're going to be asked to do.
Right.
Like, surrender everything? Oh, sure, I'm not attached to my clothes. You can have them. Well, who knew that was nothing, right?
Right, yeah.
Right? But my experience was that every time I had this deep, heart-opening experience of love, of bliss, of oneness, I only wanted more.
Right.
And so that was the fuel to allow me to go through the stuff that was really hard. And there was some excruciating periods in that time frame. There was not it wasn't a plate of roses. There was lots of thorns. But I'd had it enough and enough times where it was like, I know this is possible.
Right.
That I'm going to do whatever it takes to have that not be the place I touch, but the place I live.
Right. That you embody it.
And I was
live there.
working with a teacher at the time, and I was working with some, I was supported. I wasn't alone in the world.
Right.
But it's very individual work.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I've heard, from every mystic who's ever gone there and touched that place, that nothing. And my own experience.
And your own
yeah.
experience too,
Right.
You
Yeah.
have experience too, yeah.
Yeah, and I know a lot, I think it's a draw for a lot of folks coming to Unity and to New Thought is the experience of the presence of God. It's like, let's not just talk about it, let's be there, let's embody it.
Right.
So your message today was just so on point with that.
Yeah, thank you.
I've got a question for you.
Okay, I'm
All
ready.
right, here we go.
Okay.
What would you say Unity Church of the Hills gets to surrender for our next awakening? It's a great question.
It's got to be RV.
Yep.
We got this little joke going on, right? It is, let me say it this way. It is surrendering to everything and anything that is unlike love It is surrendering to anything and everything that does not no longer serve. That was not good English.
It's all right.
It's surrendering to needing to use good English.
Right?
But it is being willing to look deeply at every level of individually, but also collectively, into just because we were this or we did that, that doesn't mean anything anymore. It means that it brought us to this vista. But as we move forward, especially as we move forward, and there's some exciting things, go to the board gathering. There's some exciting things Frank's going to introduce to us. But it's this perfect opportunity. It's like we've tilled the soil in the last couple of years. Now we get to really see what to plant, but also what is the soul of Unity Church of the Hills striving to become.
Yeah.
We talk about two things, at the staff a little bit, but at the board. What's our why? Why are we here? Why is Unity the Church of the Hills? Why is Unity Church of the Hills an existence? Why are we here? That's not an intellectual why. It's from the soul of the ministry. And what do we stand for? And, you and I were talking earlier today just about, in 25 years ago when we started here, to be a New Thought church on the corner of Anderson Mill and 183 was enough. It's not enough moving forward.
Yeah.
It's because what the next generation is looking for is relevance, impact, engagement.
Yeah.
And so these are things not only us, but all ministries are really needing to look at in order to be the next generation, whatever that even means in the next decade or 2 or 3 or 5.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I skipped over a question, so I'm going to go back, and then I've got another one. So it looks like we've got a couple of questions bubbling up. This one, sometimes I feel a bit torn by all the things I feel I need to do, see to the needs of others, stay awake, spiritual growth. I feel like I'm juggling. What's the key to balancing it all?
Right, we are, and we're drawn. Some of us have shiny object syndrome, where we're like this. Whether that's the next thing we want to do, or the next thing we're called to, or shiny object need. We want to fix everything, but the truth is, like, we get to come, like we're all scattered out here. We get to go and right down into that stillness of being. Stillness is vitally important, especially in this time. And from that place of stillness, you can ask the question, what is mine to do today? What is mine to do today? Sometimes it's going to be go serve the needs. Other times it's going to be rest, sleep, take a nap. Let your own batteries be charged. We have a golf cart and the battery dies a lot. We have a golf cart in Arizona, and we actually have one here a little bit, kind of, sort of. But it's like if the battery dies, you don't go anywhere.
Right.
Like anything else, cell phones, right? Or our frequency devices, for that matter. We have to be charged up. You have to have your cup full first. Once your cup is full, even though there's 29 things out here to do, you can ask from the depths of your being, what is mine to do now? And it will be small, simple, concrete, one step. And it's that one step that will lead you forward. And maybe you'll get all those things done in a day, or maybe you won't, but it doesn't matter.
Right.
Because it's about being first.
Thank you. All right, another question.
Okay.
Would you talk about what support you had when going through your deeply painful experiences? And the add-on question there is, would you call it shadow work? So maybe touch on a little bit of the support that you had.
Yeah, I had come into a teacher, so I had a teacher. We were doing at least one, if not 2, 4-day retreats every single month. That was from Thursday afternoon to Sunday afternoon, intensive spiritual work. Looked like meditation. I mean, I would say it was a meditation retreat, but it was nothing like a meditation retreat. So there was usually 18 to 24 of us. And that group varied over time, and but so the support system was strong. Now, I've walked a lot of people through their own process, just one-on-one, which is always, but you need to do it with, you need support. Because the deepest awakening you can't do by yourself, you have to do by yourself, but you can't do by yourself. It's one of the paradoxes. But you need support to get to the shadow. So the shadow is anything that has not come to light. The shadow, the collective shadow for us is racism. But underneath that, it's anger, it's fear, it's anger, it's fear, it's rage, and it's not bad. It's just been buried.
Right.
So the hardest thing that I walked through, because I'm not an angry person, I've never really done much anger, partly because I learned to not do anger, but
Right.
I didn't really carry a lot of anger. But when I went through a few months of absolute rage, it was burning inside of me. I thought, oh, I know how people can lose it
Yeah.
and kill and go off the deal. I know, because I was feeling, but I was in a system, right, support,
Yeah.
that I knew enough at that time to let it burn in me, to just let it burn, to sit with it, to let it burn. And when it burned itself up, what was left was pure love. With now a compassion,
Right.
right? So the shadow work is hugely important. You cannot land in oneness when you still carry anything about other.
Right.
Now that sounds simple, but it
But it's
is
so
all
complex.
encompassing.
Yeah.
And so we get to keep being in the conversations. We keep getting to look and see and tell the truth. We keep doing our own spiritual practice, you know, the meditation, I'm going to sit here until I find love, no matter what comes up. I'm going to breathe through whatever comes up,
Yeah.
and you'll get through it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to do one more question, I think, just because we want to give people time to take a quick break before the virtual board gathering. How's that
Yes.
sound?
Sounds good.
All right, one more question. So often I'm I'm going to start over. So often I'm struck at random times with the beauty of nature, and that draws me into God.
Yeah.
What are some other ways you would recommend tuning into that love that we can take into our work-a-day lives?
Become willing to look for it. Become willing to see it. Wonder. Talked about wonder last week in Revolutionary Love. Be willing to see it. It's like I was working with my clients and my groups over this last year about using a tool that kind of was like looking at what is, right? And then in meditation, in consciousness, using frequency and everything else, like letting yourself be lifted up to peek over the edge of what you think you've known, right? Just peek over the edge. And I promise you, when you peek over the edge, then you can step over the edge. And every single time you do that, it's filled with wonder and delight and love. And use that experience of nature and being struck. Like, what if you walked into the grocery store today and I think the shelves are still empty? But what if you were just struck, allowed yourself, like, go out with the intention of being struck
I love that.
by the beauty of humanity, or the beauty of God, or the beauty of something,
Yeah. Underscored by the chime of your phone.
right?
Right.
Which says, I have to go to my board meeting now.
But I always think those are like just God saying, yep, that one's important. Pay attention to that.
That
So,
one's important, yeah.
Thank you. Any final thoughts or comments?
You know, it's a process, it's a journey. Just wake up, look outside. Oh my gosh, could you be struck by, if you're in Austin, by the sun today? Because we didn't have it for like 9 days. We forgot what it looked like. Be struck.
Absolutely. Hallelujah.
Be
and
struck.
amen.
I love that question. Because,
Yeah, it was such a great question.
yeah. And get support if you need it. Reach out. Reach out.
Yeah, and if you're interested in the Care Connection team, don't forget email prayers@unityhills.org. Yeah.
Yep.
All
All
right, we
right.
love you guys.
Love you
Have
guys.
a beautiful day.
Bye.
Wow. What a week. We hope this announcement video finds you safe and hopefully just as warm as can be as well. You are definitely in our hearts and thoughts. Now, we have just a few announcements for you for this fourth and final week already of February. Join our Board of Trustees for our monthly virtual board gathering via Zoom. It's a great opportunity to see those faces you've been missing too. Frank Phelan, Board President, will provide a short update, and then we'll break into small groups where you can ask your Board of Trustees questions and connect. The Zoom link can be found in our calendar at unityhills.org.
Mark your calendar for next Sunday at 1 p.m. for our How to Mastermind session led by longtime masterminders Cliff and Lou Goodwin Mark. Learn about the power of group prayer and surrendering our requests to the divine or mastermind. The session takes place on Zoom.
Practice Conversations facilitator Robin, John, and me will continue to explore bias and how it affects our experience of oneness in our upcoming conversation on Thursday, March 4th. At 7 p.m. via Zoom, of course. We'll continue to draw from the amazing podcast, Learning How to See by Father Richard Rohr's Center for Action and Contemplation, and we'll listen to episode 2 together and then spend some time in conversation. Register online to receive the Zoom link.
Our new minister letter writing campaign continues. The idea is for everyone to spend time in contemplation, connecting in consciousness with the individual who's divinely appointed to be our new spiritual leader. Imagine that they've been here for 60 or 90 days and you feel this incredible connection with them. What would you want to say to them, and how would you express your appreciation? Now take pen to paper and write them a letter as if you're having that conversation. Your participation helps draw this individual to us. And if you are so inclined, mail the letter to Unity Church of the Hills and put new minister on the envelope. We'll save your letter and give it to them when they arrive.
That's it for the announcements. We love you. We bless you. We appreciate you. We behold the warm Christ that you are, the very warm Christ that you are. Have a beautiful day.
Love you guys.
Won't take long before you don't get to wear your favorite winter hats again.